Hello and welcome to the latest in our series of EE webinars coming to you from Wembley Stadium. Today we are going to talk about the public sector in an increasingly mobile and connected world. It's a conversation that's been ongoing in the corporate sphere for some time, but do the same rules apply in the public sector? To address that and other questions, we'll look in detail at three applications of mobile technology: connected vehicles, rapid site setup and intelligent messaging. And we'll discuss all three by drawing on real-life examples. So to guide us through these latest developments, I'm delighted to be joined by Sasha Kakard, who is Managing Director of EE Partner West-Based Technology. And from EE, we have Alison Peers, Enterprise Messaging Account Director. We have Gary Mistry, who is Senior Propositions Manager, and Richard Chuk, Head of Public Sector Account Management. So, Sasha, we'll talk in detail about three specific examples, as I said, in a moment, but more broadly, the adoption of mobile in the public sector. Where are we with the adoption of mobile?
So the key thing about the public sector is it's very paperwork-driven due to regulatory and compliance. And effectively, mobility will provide them with the connectivity that enables them to hopefully streamline that workflow and make them more efficient.
So if I was looking for one big issue that is obsessing, if you like, obsessing the public sector, what would that be?
So it's really about making the resources that are available with the budgetary constraints that are put upon the public sector as efficient as possible. So it's back to the efficiency piece.
Alison, so efficiency from Sasha. What's the one thing, the recurring theme when you speak to people in the public sector?
One of the biggest challenges that the NHS have is the did not attend. So it's patients actually not turning up for their appointments, either a hospital or a GP surgery.
Very good, and we'll talk in more detail later on about that specific application. And the same question to you, Gary, you know, the key trends, key issues for public sector.
Yeah, so we see public sector organisations trying to make their field workers as productive as possible. So that really comes down to getting them connected, and we really have seen the progress over the last 5 years, even from talk and text smartphones to now tablets and laptop-based working.
Richard, same question to you, talking to public sector, people in the public sector, dealing with technology, dealing with efficiencies. What's the issue that comes up again and again?
So I think that the first thing to remember is that the public sector is about delivering a service. So I think that's the key differentiator between the rest of the business world. They spend public money to deliver a service. As has been mentioned, critical is being efficient and being effective, and they've been doing that by becoming increasingly mobile and more agile. I think what's really changing now is that they're looking at ways to work together in partnership with other government departments and agencies, but also to become more flexible. And what we are able to deliver really helps them to do that.
Very good. OK, let's look at those three applications of the mobile technology. We'll start with connected vehicle, and we'll look at a specific example in a second. But before we do that, just give us an overview. What is connected vehicle? What is the problem that connected vehicle is trying to solve?
So what it provides, I think, is a hotspot. So it allows them to connect their own people, be it a police force connecting other police officers at the scene of a crime, or indeed connecting other agencies to form a local command and control centre. It provides better connectivity for them whilst they're in their vehicle because of the better antenna, but also it provides connectivity outside the vehicle. So if they've left the vehicle to go and do something, be it an ambulance crew or a police officer, they can still maintain that connectivity back with their devices. And I think the other area which I think is really important is it's less holes in the roof of vehicles. They either buy or hire their vehicles, and if they put holes in the roof, it costs them more money. So by having one antenna instead of many, it becomes a lot cheaper, but also it makes things a lot more simple without having to wire in new technology as it becomes available.
So some very practical reasons there, as well as some more broader reasons. I promised you an example of this in action. So let's have a look at the East Midlands Ambulance Service as one of those examples.
Everywhere we go, we have to be in control of our resources, we have to know where they are. We need to be connected at all times.
We need reliable, consistently fast data connections. This connected vehicle will be deployed to major incidents where we can use this as an extension of our control room. Obviously, one of the biggest problems we've always had was a limitation on coverage, particularly in the more remote locations. Since the EE equipment's been installed on this vehicle, we're getting what I would call real broadband capability now. 4G technology is really helping us there. And as we move forward with how we use technology in the healthcare environment, the reliance on broadband and Wi-Fi will only grow exponentially.
Okay, Sasha, so that was the East Midlands Ambulance Service, a particular example of this. How might that apply elsewhere?
So in the East Midlands Ambulance Service, we're really talking about incident response, and the faster we can get information back from an incident scene and intelligence back to the central place where decisions can be made, the more effective the scene can be managed.
So I can see how that would absolutely work in an emergency service instance in the ambulance service for police, but I'm struggling to see how that might apply in other parts of the public sector.
So in this particular instance, we're talking about incidents, but we could talk about daily workflow, and indeed where police officers are concerned, having additional capability to fill out reports, to be able to read compliance, etc., from the vehicle as opposed to returning to the headquarters. I mean, the benefits are very clear to be seen, and the key part there is visibility, it's time on the feet.
Very
so
good.
It really helps enforce that message.
Excellent. Gary, so again, we've heard the particular example, we've heard about the benefits of the technology. What about the technology itself?
So essentially, we've pulled together best-of-breed components. So a high-gain antenna for the top of the vehicle, a really powerful router that we fit inside the vehicle. Of course, all of these components have to be fit for purpose. So if you've seen inside the East Midlands ambulance, the instant response vehicle, it's packed with high-tech equipment. So, of course, the router we've got is very compact, and, of course, it's fit for purpose. It's resistant to vibrations and voltage spikes as it's connected to the vehicle's battery. But components aside, we've also pulled together a full support wrap. And that's right from installing the equipment, and, of course, you've seen the vehicle that East Midlands have. It's a valuable piece of kit, so you have to know exactly what you're doing when fitting equipment to a vehicle like that, but also in life, so the full support wrap, the 24/7 nature of it. These guys, these organisations, they want to deploy their technology. As far as connectivity goes, they just want it taken care of, and that's what we've done with our solution.
Richard, what else should we take away from the connected vehicle example?
So we've spoken a lot about keeping officers on the street with the police and saving lives with the ambulance service. But there's another important part of government public sector, which is about connecting citizens. And I think one thing we should consider is, how would it help, for instance, with mobile libraries? How would that help the digital inclusion agenda by allowing mobile libraries to provide a hotspot for local citizens to connect local citizens? And I think that's a critical thing to remember. This is not just about blue light and critical services. It's also about the wider community that the public sector serves.
Okay, that's connected vehicles. Let's now talk about Rapid Sight, the number 2 in our list of 3 applications. Again, before we see the specific example, give me a sense of the challenge and what the technology brings to bear.
So we've spoken about flexibility, and at the moment the public sector is very fixed to its buildings and very fixed to things connected to wires. What this enables them to do is to look at things very differently. So, for example, if they're wondering where to place their services, they can rapidly set up this, we use this phrase, pop-up something. So, for instance, they could set up a pop-up police station, or indeed a pop-up town hall, so to speak, to provide local services in the community, which will allow them to get it there quickly and cheaply, but importantly to see whether it delivers an effect. So if it doesn't work, they can then move it somewhere else to where it could deliver an effect. Also, if one looks at perhaps the police, where they've got a long-term presence on a crime scene, that might enable them to set up a more permanent location there, for instance, using a pause camera tent, and actually put the Rapid Sight setup in there to give them that connectivity.
Okay, so that's a few examples of how this might be used. Let's look at another example, Green Square Housing Association.
Green Square is a housing association. We build our own properties in our construction company. Green Square operates across 3 counties of Wiltshire, Oxfordshire and Gloucester. With that comes some challenges about how do we get our staff accessing the internet. What we want is a seamless process for them to be able to log on and have the information at hand. Actually, in Green Square Group, we used to print over 10,000 sheets of paper a day. Everybody wants to know that what they're working on is the current version.
By using EE Rapid Sight, it's very easy for me to highlight areas of the drawing that need attention. So, for instance, if I thought that a window was out of place, I could clearly mark that up. I can ensure that the correct decision can be made and relayed back to site. No more cumbersome drawings.
So Sasha, we've been hearing about 10,000 printed pieces of paper per day. That's clearly not an issue anymore. Again, what other lessons might we learn from this?
Well, in the case of Green Square, we're really talking about the ability to collaboratively work with their head office and make the site productive quicker. And that's key in any building industry. With housing association, we're all very aware that there's a big push to ensure that we produce a lot of affordable housing as quickly as possible. And
Gary, our resident expert on the technology, to talk us through the technology that's involved here.
Yeah, so we really bring our network expertise to the fore here. That Green Square site on the outskirts of Chipping Norton, I mean, they didn't have strong connectivity there. Essentially, with our proposition, with a 3 working day SLA, we're saying, yeah, we can get that site connected. And even before we've arrived on site, we know what to expect. We understand the network in the locality. We know which mast can provide 3G or 4G connectivity. So for them, it's a transformational experience. It's very easy. And as they said there, you know, that morning they couldn't download their files. That afternoon they had full access to their office. It's a step change.
So Alison, we've heard about connected vehicles, we've heard about Rapid Site. The third piece of the puzzle is intelligent messaging. I know something that is dear to your heart.
It is.
You talked about the health service. Just explain that application a bit more.
So the biggest problem, you know, the NHS have really in regards to booking appointments is when people don't turn up. So they'll book their hospital appointment or their GP appointment, and a hospital will send a letter, and somebody will open that but then put it on a desk and forget about it. So what we're enabling GPs to do is actually send text messages to confirm or cancel the appointments, which will then go back into a live scheduling system and release that appointment so that GPs can see more patients daily.
And this is about saving money?
It's saving time and money, really. The other thing as well is, you know, how do you deal with something like a specific health campaign such as flu jabs? So somebody ordinarily would have to pick up a phone and actually dial those at-risk patients, whereas sending a text message out to a certain demographic group would enable a text message to go and schedule those appointments via text message with the confirmations coming back into their scheduling system. So it's hugely powerful, using a very, very simple technology that everybody's used to.
Alison, thank you very much. Before we go, one final question. I'm going to put this question to all of you. Start with you, Richard. A takeaway, a piece of advice to the people watching here, especially the people in the public sector. What one piece of advice would you leave them with?
So we spoke about collaboration. For me, this is about working together in partnership. It's about not only connecting our public sector workers, but it's also about connecting their citizens as well.
So Gary, one piece of advice.
So we're making it easy for public sector organisations to connect their workers out in the field by providing the full managed support wrap and also the price points that we're launching, the flexibility of them, the competitiveness of them. These propositions are designed for widespread adoption.
Alison, piece of advice.
Intelligent messaging from EE will really empower the NHS to save time, to save money and to save lives, you know, if they can actually get out there to the at-risk communities. It's really, really powerful piece of technology.
Sasha.
So secure, reliable connectivity that's a managed proposition, I think, is absolutely what the public sector has been crying out for. And this proposition identifies and addresses those requirements.
Sasha, thank you very much. Alison, thank you. Gary and Richard, thank you all very much. And thank you indeed for watching. And now we'd love to keep this conversation going beyond today. To find out more about working with EE, do get in contact using the details on the screen now. Until next time, thanks for watching.